We have a massive update to go over today surrounding the Toronto Maple Leafs, and while all the focus has been on Mitch Marner's future in Toronto, the Leafs have a huge decision to make with John Tavares and Matthew Knies, and we have some brand new updates surrounding those two, particularly surrounding their future in Toronto, and this changes everything for the future of this team, but also Brad Treliving's plan this offseason. We're also diving into some of the quotes they had, revealing some very interesting things, including one in particular that has fans absolutely fired up. A ton to go over today, folks. Before we get into it, if you're a part of the 70 to 75% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Obviously, this is the third or fourth video of the day. So if you're enjoying that, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And thank you guys again for your support. We just hit 20,000 subscribers. We're on the road now to 21,000. You guys have been absolute beasts. So thank you guys for that. Darius, speaking of beasts, John Tavares was a beast last year with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and his future in Toronto is still up in the air at this juncture. But he came out over the past couple days, and as recent as an hour ago, which we'll dive into, and he spoke about his future. Now, let's start with the comments from yesterday or the day before, right after the game, essentially. He's kind of been talking in between. So he started by saying that he was extremely emotional, according to Chris Johnson, while giving his post-game remarks, and his responsibility, he takes it for the team's inability to break through and wants to return, saying he's never going to quit and that he'd love another opportunity. And he was simply, asked about his tenure as a Leaf, and he said it meant everything to me. And it feels like just yesterday we were celebrating, everyone was celebrating John Tavares coming to this young core. It's frustrating how it's all went. Would you like to return? He said yes. And Darius, you pair that with, some things that he said today about simple as this. We'll dive right into it. He says he had good conversations with Craig Berube and Brad Treliving about returning next season. All signs point to him returning, and that's a very good sign. And the quote today, specifically this one, has fans fired up in a good way. However, the price that is going to have to, the Leafs are going to have to pay him is the big question mark. And I don't necessarily, I want him back if it's at a pretty hefty discount, just given the amount of change that this team desperately needs.
And believe it or not, because some people out there do not believe it, but market value for John Tavares right now is $8 million or around $8 million. Now, I don't think he's going to get that with the Maple Leafs. And again, he was really emotional after the game. He actually took there's a lot of accountability in what he said. So do like his comments. But again, I think the Leafs have to look at everything. Everything is on the table right now. Is everything going to change, including John Tavares? I'm not so sure, but I think they're going to have to take a look at it over the next couple of weeks and really make some decisions. So I don't think we're really going to know what they're planning to do until maybe 2 weeks from now. Because again, they're going to sit down, they got to go through everything. Who can help us? Can we go get another free agent that could slot in there? Or is John Tavares the best fit? Now, I do believe, and we're going to kind of get into it, and CJ's talked about it as well. I do believe that the Leafs are basically going to say, listen, this is no secret. We know that you want to be back and we want you back as well, but it's got to be for like 5-6 max million a year if it's going to happen, or you can go play somewhere else, because it just doesn't work for us if you want $8 million. They need to free up a lot of salary cap space if they want to retool this team. And they're doing that with Mitch Marner seemingly walking, and obviously John Tavares making maybe half of what he's making right now, maybe a little bit less than half of what he's making right now. So they're freeing up some space there. Salary cap is going up significantly this summer anyway, so they're going to have a ton of salary cap space to work with. But I think they're going to go to him and be like, listen, this is no surprise. We know you're like 34 at this point. We think you can help the team, but you're going to have to do it at a significant discount. And I honestly think John Tavares has left money on the table before to become a Maple Leaf. I think he'll do it again, and I think that he is going to stay. But, things have potential to get a little bit crazy here in the next couple of weeks. But I think everything's on the table. I think they do have to think about bringing him back. Does it make us any better, or do we, look at different options at this point?
Yeah, and obviously, we all love John Tavares, both of us, most fans do, Leafs fans out there, and I think he's pretty respected across the NHL. Although him joining, of course, the the Leafs, and then had some fans turn on him. It's going to be hard to get him back if it's more than $5 million, simply because the Leafs need a ton of change. Like, the only guys I have penciled in right now in my head, and we'll be covering this all offseason, all these different things, is William Nylander, Austin Matthews, Matthew Knies, assuming, and we'll have an update on him in a minute, and then Scott Laughton. Other than that, in the forward group, I'm open to any possible change. And obviously, that includes potentially letting John Tavares walk if he's going to get $8 million. I do not want the team to be handicapped. And we know he loves the passion. He loves the team. He said passion is a significant word amongst this fan base, and it's really special, and you feel their disappointment. Never want to see jerseys on the ice. We just didn't play well enough. And again, he bleeds the Toronto Maple Leafs now. And the unfortunate reality is, he has to say things like this because guess what? There's a good chance he doesn't, return as well, even though I do think they're going to get it done. I know you guys will have your opinions. Obviously, management will make their decisions, but a very good team that's done a lot of good things, just haven't broken through. Never going to quit, never going to stop trying. So I'd love another opportunity. This is almost exactly what he said last year when they got eliminated in 7 to the Boston Bruins, and years before that as well. It's a lot of the same stuff. I want him to return. I think there's a very good chance he returns, especially following, this specific, quote here surrounding, they've been in conversation with Brad Treliving about it, which is the only one quote we got of the day that directly confirms that they've had conversations with Brad Treliving. I believe Craig Berube said he didn't even have conversations with Brad Treliving. And of course, it's going to be interesting to see there. But you have Matthew Knies, who we'll dive into in a minute, too, to pay. Like, there is a lot of money that needs to be spent, and not all of it's going to be able to go to, $8 million in John Tavares, and you handicap yourself after you pay Matthew Knies $9 million, whatever it is. You need pieces around, and we'll have videos on pieces. But this one here, it's I'm not super high on signing him unless it's for very cheap. You mentioned $6 million is your cap. I might even say it's $4 or $5 million, and I don't think that's realistic. But I mean, at this point, like, the Leafs have to make some really, really hard decisions. And John Tavares had a breakout year given his age, but I don't know if it's going to be the best thing for the team to bring him back. And at that same time, I also don't want to get, fall into the narrative and mindset of you can let great players walk and your team's going to be better. Because if you lose Marner and John Tavares, you're losing well over 150 points right there.
Yeah, I mean, more than that at this point, right? Like, that is all you got to make up for that in free agency, and that's going to be hard to do. And you have to take a look at the team, and are we better without John Tavares? And if John Tavares leaves, I mean, I'm going to be a little, like, pretty upset, honestly. I love John Tavares and everything that he's brought to the team, but it's going to be, upsetting. But you have to be sure that you can make the team better, and I'm not sure that's the case right now. And again, I think that he's the type to leave money on the table. I think that he will be willing to sign for 5 or 6. I think 6 gets it done, honestly. Like, for both parties. Like, his market value right now is 8 if he wants to go somewhere else. Just leave $2 million on the table like you did before. Sign with the Maple Leafs. You have all these opportunities. You get to, probably retire at home because I don't think he wants to play anywhere else at this point. So I think all signs are pointing to that. Hopefully it doesn't get too complicated and no feelings are hurt through that. I think Mitch Marner is as good as gone personally. So you're going to have to find a way to, spend that cap in the offseason with some different players, make this team a little bit deeper. But I would like to see John Tavares back because I think he'll play a big role. But the thing for me is don't re-sign him if it's going to cost you $8 or $9 million or something like that, right? It's got to be shorter term. I don't want to see him on Robida Island either. That would be a bad, end to his tenure as a Maple Leaf. But man, he almost scored 40 goals last year. Like, he's still a great player, can be a 2C. The conversation a couple of years ago is he's got to move to the wing. It hasn't happened yet. He's been playing great still. He's one of the best face-off guys in the entire league. So, I would love to see him back again, and I think that he can help the team win, but I think you just got to think about it. If there's something out there that you believe you can either trade for or sign in free agency, if there's another avenue, you got to think about it. But I think right now, it would make sense at a lower cap hit to bring John Tavares back.
Yeah, and you see a report here from the fourth period. John Tavares is also set to become a free agent. The Leafs in his camp have stayed in touch throughout the season with interest on both sides. They're expected to resume talks over the next few weeks. This was before John Tavares came out and said this. So, line that up. Also, some teams up there regarding Mitch Marner. If you're interested in that, feel free to pause and read them. We'll have tons of videos on that. There's a lot more. Almost every team in hockey is going to want, to pursue Mitch Marner to some degree here. But also, quickly before I wrap up, Matthew Knies spoke out about couple different things. First, about challenge, how it says it was challenging walking into the Leafs room and not seeing John Tavares, and it would be challenging. He's kind of the first person I think of when I see that logo. He took me in when I was a kid, which, is true. I mean, John Tavares came in to the Leafs, and obviously Matthew Knies is very young, not long in the NHL, so it'll be tough. And of course, you forget about the personal side of things sometimes, and it's going to be interesting to see that. But he also spoke about how he isn't really interested in entertaining an offer sheet this summer. That's not something he or his agent are pursuing heading into the offseason. He wants to stay with the Leafs, but it all starts with Mitch Marner. We'll have multiple other videos, dedicated to Matthew Knies as that gets closer. At the end of the day, John Tavares, I think, Mitch Marner is probably the number one thing that's going to get solved. Then it'll, the dominoes will fall there. But I could also see a world where Matthew Knies is one of the first guys that signs because it's less of a question mark. You need to sign him no matter how much it is. I mean, obviously we're hoping, between 8 and 9 million over 8 years, something like that, similar to Slavkovsky and players like that. Any thoughts on this, Darius, before I wrap up? But it seems Matthew Knies, I think of all players, is certain to come back. He doesn't even want to entertain other teams.
Yeah, I'm glad that he came out and said that because obviously there's been a lot of speculation in terms of offer sheets because there's new compensation for offer sheets. So it's more likely that we'll see some more this summer, and it could be the summer of offer sheets. But to me, it seems like he wants to stay here. He wants to grow with the Maple Leafs. He wants to sign long term here. So I think that like 8.5 by 8 would be awesome. That would age absolutely beautifully after the next, or over the next 3 years, I should say. It would look like a great value contract. So I think there's less question marks, like you said, with Matthew Knies. The only question mark is how much is the contract and for how long. That's the only question mark, because it doesn't sound like he wants to go anywhere else. Doesn't sound like he's going to sign an offer sheet. And in terms of the actual team and his fit on the team, you need this player. You need to retain this player. So less question marks for me. I think they get it done, but it's just a question of like how much is it? And it might come in at a bit of an absurd number, but it's for good reason, because it will age better as he kind of grows and as the contract goes along, with the salary cap going up almost $10 million every summer after this summer. So it's going to be interesting to watch. It's going to come down, I think, in the next couple of weeks, a decision on Tavares. And I think everyone at this point, over the next course of the next 2 weeks, I feel like management's going to meet with everyone, and they're going to have basically a plan going forward for what they're doing heading into the draft on July 1st.
Yeah, let us know below your thoughts are on Knies, Tavares. How much do you want to see them sign either one of them for? Let us know. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.